So in this video, we're going to discuss wireless security. And obviously, when it comes down to wireless security, proper wireless security should just be a logical extension of your overall network security scheme. You need to have network security in place before you really even think about a wireless network. And too many times, people will just throw a wireless access point in their lobby or wherever and say, well, we have a wireless network, everyone can wander around. And they don't really stop to take the time to think, how am I exposing my network? How am I exposing my data to outside individuals? And many times people don't take these considerations because they just forget that wireless radio waves don't stop at the doors and the windows of your organization. And again, that seems to be a no-brainer to us as network engineers, but so many times when you point this out to someone, what happens if someone pulls up in your parking lot and just decides to start surfing your internal network? People just kind of go, oh wow, I never thought about that. And basically with wireless security, what you have to remember is you have to protect against outside threats to your data and your network, as well as just internal threats. With a proper wired network security scheme, you may have it set up so that only certain ports are activated and certain ports are in certain VLANs, and you've got quality of service and access lists and everything applied to your wired network. And that works well enough because generally you don't have people coming into your business and plugging up to your network and doing things without being noticed at least. However, with wireless networks, we go back to our most overused and most famous scenario, which is someone pulling up in front of the business after hours or during business hours and associating with your wireless network. You may not ever see them. You may not ever recognize them unless you just happen to be alert and realize, hey, that car has been parked across the street for the last 2.5 hours. There's been a guy in there on a laptop. I wonder what he's doing. Most businesses, however, don't really even consider that. So what are some of the outside threats that you have to guard against with a wireless network? The first is war drivers, and these are people that just drive around with a laptop and a wireless network card looking for open wireless networks. And most of the time, these war drivers are really just looking for free internet. But every so often, you will have someone who war drives around looking for closed networks just to see what's out there. And I'll readily admit I've actually done some war driving just to see what's out there. Not that I would do anything malicious against any of the networks that I did find, whether or not they were open or closed. But just as an example, I have a small recording booth in my house that I record this in. So I'm actually sitting out in my garage recording this video right now here in the middle of a residential subdivision. And I loaded up a copy of Insider and plugged a USB wireless network card into my computer here, and I've got it cranked up. It's been running here for just a little bit. And sitting right here in my house, I can see 14, 15 different wireless networks. Everything from Apple, Netgear, Linksys. Some of these are mine. 4 of them are mine. But most of them are ones from my neighbors as well. And this particular piece of software gives you not only the list of SSIDs that it sees, but it sees what channels are available so that you can pick a channel that's not really being used by many of your neighbors so that you get a better throughput. Obviously, no one around me has 802.11n. It's all 802.11g because they're all using the 2.4 gigahertz channels. But this just gives you an example of what you might see were you to load up a piece of war driving software. Now imagine if I were to take this and go into the middle of an office park and crank it up, all of the networks I would see there. And if you don't have the proper wireless security set up on those networks, well, then you're just exposing that out for anyone to see. And you move on from the fairly harmless and fairly innocuous war drivers down to full-blown hackers. And that's a term that's been misused in certain geek circles. If you use the word hacker, no, they're not a hacker, they're a cracker. A hacker is someone who hacks on code all day. They're not crackers. Crackers are people that break into networks. Whatever word is the right word to use here. The end result of all this is there is a group of people out there that will use poorly secured or unsecured wireless access points as an entry point into the network. Now, if they can crack your wireless security, then that's just about as good as walking into your network and plugging up into a switch, and they have full inside access to your network. They don't have to go through any firewalls or any of the intrusion defense or intrusion protection systems you might have in place for your internet connection. They're on your local network, and so that's why you have to really take wireless security seriously if you're going to do this. You also have some inside threats, and these might not necessarily be people that are just attacking your network, but they're just simply trying to make their job easier and could end up compromising the security of the network. And the biggest threat from the inside are rogue access points. And again, you'd be surprised at how often this happens on large networks and small networks. You get a user that's in your corporate office, for example, and they're like, I need to bring in 5 consultants, but we don't have 5 network jacks here. I know what I'll do. I'll just go down to Best Buy or Costco or wherever and get a wireless access point or a wireless router. I'll just plug it into this jack in the wall, and that'll give all of these consultants or all of these extra employees access wirelessly. They can use their iPads or their laptops or wherever. They can wander around the room, around the space here. Unfortunately, unless you secure that properly, you've just opened up your inside network to an unencrypted world out there. And again, they're not necessarily trying to attack the network, but they're just trying to make their jobs easier, trying to make everything just kind of work and go along, and they might inadvertently let in people that don't need to be on your network. We'll carry on with our discussion of wireless security in the next video.